Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Martin Simon, Assistant Town Attorney. To his left is Blaise Donadio, Planner in the Planning Department. You're all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision. They're listed over here, and they are as follows. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates and postings and mailings to Mr. Trotta if you haven't done so already. Then you will be told or be asked to go back to the podium. We will state your name and address for the record and then proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can go back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 2 ways to find out about your case. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12 p.m., or you can wait to be notified by mail. We do have some adjournments tonight. We have 4 adjournments. They're all in the industrial park. The first one is case 19028, B9 Oser Owner LLC. That has been adjourned to December 12th. The next case is case 19029, again, B9 Hopog Owner LLC. That has been adjourned also to December 12th. The third one is case 19030, B9 Hopog Owner LLC. That has been adjourned to December 12th. And the last one is case number 19031, B9 Comac Owner LLC. That has been adjourned also to December 12th.
The first case on the agenda, case number 19018, Nicholas Catalano, 157 7th Street, St. James. The location of the property, the north side of 7th Street, 196 feet west of Lake Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to decrease the distance from any rear lot line from 6 feet to 4 feet for an existing outdoor kitchen.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening. So, Nick Catalano, St. James, 157 7th Street. And like Blaise mentioned, I put a pool in. I did a pizza oven in my backyard. The pizza oven was all put in about 3 years ago. Took a couple years to build. Pizza oven was built, unfortunately, a foot closer than the code allows to my backyard fence. And I'm looking for a variance for the 1 foot or 2 feet, I guess, variance. You know, to be in line with the code. So
Is this strictly a pizza oven, or do you do other types of cooking in there?
it's strictly a pizza oven. I mean, there's a like in the front, you can see there's a refrigerator as well as a cabinets, but it's just a pizza oven. So it's a wood-fired pizza oven that actually was imported from Italy. So, and then built in otherwise, so.
It's wood-fired,
Wood-fired,
You don't
no
have-
gas,
no gas.
no gas, yep.
On the top of that, is that some kind of an arrestor to keep the sparks from the wood?
On the top, the very
Yeah,
top?
yeah.
It's just an exhaust. So essentially, it's dome on the inside. When you have the door open, the fumes or the smoke comes out and it goes up through that exhaust. So,
And obviously, you just use this during the good weather.
yeah, to make pizza.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, appreciate it.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19019, John Logan, 15 Sarah Drive, Hauppauge. The location of the property is the east side of Sarah Drive, 217 feet north of Libby Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 41 feet for a proposed 331 square foot one-story addition and 261 square foot rear deck.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mike Colorado, Captain Permit, 245 Route 109, Suite D, West Babylon, New York. I'll be representing the homeowner.
Just 1 second, please. All the paperwork submitted?
Is the homeowner here?
No.
Did you submit a power of attorney or letter of authorization?
I don't know if that was submitted prior.
We don't have that. Yeah, we don't have one.
You don't have a power of attorney?
No.
We can't hear the case unless you have a power of attorney.
Or if the
Or
applicant can come
if the
in
applicant-
tonight, at some point this evening, you can wait to be heard later on.
All right, I'll give them a call.
Okay.
All right, what we'll do is we'll move on,
Okay.
and if you can do that, just come on back in and we'll get
All
you
right.
in.
All right,
All right.
thank you.
All righty, the next case on the agenda, case number 19020, Edward and Jillian Benz, 2 Fortune Court, Comac. The location of the property is the northwest corner of Fortune Court and Cameo Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 25 feet on Cameo Road for a proposed 462 square foot front addition, 391 square foot roof over patio, and a 16-foot by 32-foot in-ground pool. A variance to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 9 feet for a proposed 284 square foot rear addition, to reduce the setback to a lot line on Cameo Road from 10 feet to 0 for a proposed 6-foot PVC fence on a corner lot.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
So I'm Jillian Benz. This is my husband, Edward Benz. We are the homeowners at 2 Fortune Court. I kind of prepared a little something to read that goes through everything, since we are asking for variances on 4 different things. As you see, it is a corner lot, so there are a few more approvals that are going to be required and a few more conditions. So first, we're asking to reduce the property on the north side of the house, which is considered our second front yard, from 40 to 25 feet, to allow for a 462 square foot family room extension, which our current home does not have. And behind that would be a 391 square foot covered patio. I just want to note that this board has approved this in 2 Golden Ridge. The house has the same position on the lot, and they reduced from 40 to 25 feet for 2 stories, and on 2 Garrick Street, which is 2 blocks over, reduced their corner lot, second front yard, from 40 to 22 feet for 2 stories as well, and 9 Ott, which is our the West Cross Street for Cameo Road, reduced down to less than 20 feet, all corner lots as well. So secondly, we're asking to reduce our south side yard from 12 feet to 9 feet for a 284 square foot rear extension. This allows us to increase the square foot of our bedrooms, our closets, and the bathrooms slightly. Keeping with the straight line of the house, the reduction in the side yard is caused by the angle of the property line, as you can see there. So we're not changing the sideline of the house, it's just reduced because of the property line angles. Thirdly, we would like to install a 16 by 32 in-ground pool, and if we keep within the setbacks of the original house and that second front yard, we can't, because we wouldn't make the clearance from our power lines. So we need to shift the pool over, otherwise we wouldn't have the proper clearance if we stayed within that original 40-foot setback off of Cameo. Lastly, we'd like to install a 6-foot PVC fence around the property, which would require a variance, not just a permit, because it's considered a second front yard. We'd like to match it up with our rear neighbor. If you can see there, they have their fence right on the property line there. And we'd like to take it all the way up to where we would be adding the proposed extension to allow for privacy in our family room and the safety for our 2 daughters. They're very athletic. And that area we consider our backyard. There are some trees and shrubs there now, so we kind of use that area as our backyard now. Realistically, if this was an interior lot, almost everything with the exception of that side yard would fall within standard building permits, not variances. So we would like you to take that into consideration. We hope that you would take all of this into consideration, as we do feel that they are reasonable and will allow us to use the maximum use of our property with our 2 young daughters. They will significantly improve the overall functionality of the home, the interior flow, the aesthetics of the house, as well as the neighborhood, while allowing us to raise our family in the house that my husband's grandfather had built. And that's it. Thank you.
On Cameo,
Yes.
you have a very nice buffer along there,
Of what? The space-wise?
of trees.
Okay.
Are you going to put the fence in front of those or in back of them?
So a lot of those on the inside of them are dying. They're not healthy. They have a nice green from the outside, but on the inside, a lot of them, we've tried to trim them back, but not as much, because we want to still try to maintain some sort of privacy. But the inside of the trees, a lot of them are dead. So we just haven't really cut out a lot of the sticks. So we would like to replace those trees with some Leland cypresses. So those trees would be replaced because they're not in the best of health.
Okay. But is the fence going to go in front?
We would like the fence to be on the outside. Our
the
neighbor, I don't know if you want to see it, our neighbor has a fence.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't, we passed by your house.
Okay, so our neighbor oh, there you go. So our neighbor, their fence is, it almost looks as though theirs is 1 foot setback, but the property line kind of dips in, the sidewalk dips in there. So we would just like to kind of match it up to theirs so that it's just aesthetically not all stepped in. So we would put the trees on the inside of it so that this way it just kind of keeps a nice straight flow of fence as opposed to it just being all stepped.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No comments, Mr. Chairman, but I do want to put on the record that planning did receive a written statement from a neighbor with concerns about the proposed addition.
Right. Sabrina? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed?
Is he here?
No? Okay. Move on. The next case on the agenda, case number 19021, Rotundo Properties LLC. The location of the property is the west side of Reeves Street and 99 feet north of New York State Route 25A. The property is zoned R10S. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum lot area from 10,000 square feet to 809 square feet due to environmentally sensitive lands. To increase the maximum permitted floor area ratio from 30% to 100% due to environmentally sensitive land. To permit environmentally sensitive land to be altered for slopes greater than 15%. For proposed 1,290 square foot, two-story, single-family home for the purpose of transfer of development rights.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, Rotundi Properties, John Farrell. My firm is at, it's Son, Ward, Braff, and Koblenz. 100 Veterans Memorial Highway, Suite 100, Hauppauge, New York. So you heard the call of the case. This application is seeking permission to develop the lot with a single-family home, but at the end of the day, we intend to transfer the development rights of the parcel. The total lot area of this lot is 8,000 square feet, and my client's father purchased this property in the mid-1960s, and he inherited it after he passed away in the early 2000s. So he's owned it in single and separate ownership for the statutory period of time to entitle him to reduced variances and setbacks. The proposed layout of the dwelling would comply with all of the bulk requirements, but for the but for the sloped lands. If you look at the subject property, the property to the north, and the property across the street and to the north, 5 and 6 Reeves, both look like they were developed on the environmentally sensitive lands with the grades raised. They do have retaining walls. And so we're not seeking anything different. If we can't get the approval from this board to transfer the development rights, my client would basically be left with nothing. It would not be a developable parcel. He would not be able to do anything with it, which would essentially come down to an inverse condemnation where you strip the property owner of all of his rights. If you look at the 5 factors for granting the variances, the subject property is in an R10S district. The area it's located in has a range of parcel sizes from 6,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet. The property at 5 Reeve Street is actually an 8,000 square foot parcel that is developed with a single family home. That's not much different than what we're seeking here. So I would say that the proposed parcel is in character with the surrounding community. There's no feasible means to develop the property without the variance relief or to transfer the development rights without the variance relief. And the substantiality of the variance, while the variances are substantial on their face, they're related to the slope, but for the slope, this parcel would be almost as of right. We would just need a reduction in lot area from 10,000 to 8,000, and there is precedent directly across the street. An adverse impact to the physical and environmental conditions, I don't think we can really argue that case, but there is, this is but one factor of 5 that the board is supposed to consider when balancing whether the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the community. I think when you look at the benefit to the applicant, it's being able to make use of this property by transferring the development rights, and there would be no detriment to the community because the ultimate plan is to not develop the parcel. This is not a self-created hardship. As I said earlier, my client's father purchased this property in the mid-1960s. That was about 20 years before the town had any regulations regarding steep slopes. He inherited this property, and, you know, he has no other options with it. So I would argue that it's not a self-created hardship. And if you look at the overall balancing test, I think the benefit to the applicant in this case certainly outweighs any detriment to the community.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that's interested in this case? You are, sir. Okay. Could you explain exactly what TDRs are?
Sure. So because the bulk of the town of Smithtown is not located in a sewer district, you're only allowed to develop so much of your property, right? So if you have a commercial property, based on the uses and based on the size of the lot, you're only allowed to discharge so much wastewater into the ground. What this transfer of development rights would do we would transfer the development rights, in other words, the right to discharge wastewater into the ground at this location, to another property in the town of Smithtown. So this property would remain vacant, would stay in the exact same state it's in, but it would allow additional development at another parcel in a different part of the town.
All right,
Okay.
we'll try to explain it to you. Tony, you seem to be the expert.
Again. So anyway, the transfer of development rights ordinance was crafted. It exists in county law. We pulled it under the town code years back. And what it does is it gives us a mechanism to steer development away from parcels that we don't want to see it to places that we do. So in effect, this property will stay in the state that it is. It'll just be forest and left the way it is forever. And that gives somebody else the ability to purchase those rights to develop somewhere else. In the town of Smithtown, we made it our downtowns so that you could add a restaurant or you could add an apartment. So they will transfer the rights to develop this parcel to downtown.
So at the end of the day, the parcel will not be touched. It'll remain intact.
He's got to be on the mic.
Yeah, excuse me, could you come up, I'm sorry? Just introduce yourself, please.
This is presentation.
Huh? Yeah, your presentation's done, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you just introduce yourself?
My name's Alan Havernack. I live at 26 Hurton Boulevard. Sorry? Alan Havernack. Okay, 26 Hurton Boulevard, Smithtown. I just had a couple of questions.
Just address it to the board.
Okay. To access the property without building a road would have to be, I'm guessing, it would have to be a extended driveway. And that's what I'm a little confused about. Is that the way,
There's going to be no development.
with nothing, so there's no building going to be,
No, nothing.
so nothing on the back?
Nothing. If they transfer the rights, you can't build anything.
Okay, okay. That's basically my question was, because I'm in the fire department, and we were kind of wondering about egress and stuff in case we ever had to get a fire truck up there. It's, it's
Not
pretty
unless
hard.
it's a brush fire.
Right, yeah, well, hopefully that'll never happen. Okay, so there's no building going up whatsoever, and everything stays status quo? Correct. Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this property does have access to a public road, so even if it were to be developed, which is, again, not our plan, it has frontage on Reeve Street, which is open and developed from Hurton Boulevard all the way down to North Country Road. I know there are a couple of other properties in that area that are on paper roads, and, you know, the development would be a little more tricky. That's not the case here.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board have any questions? Planning?
No, thank you.
Sabrina?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, portions of this application indicate that the property is vacant. However, the survey and site plan submitted as well as current aerial photography from the town's GIS site, suggest the presence of existing structures and encroachments on the property. This inconsistency must be resolved. Lastly, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant, as well as any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. The structures that are encroaching are from the neighbor's property. We didn't put them there, we didn't authorize them to be there. So I'm not sure, does the town wish me to make bring an action for ejectment before I can get an approval?
It's being shown as vacant, but it's technically not if there's encroachments from the neighbors. So that has to be resolved.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, I don't really have a choice. You know, it's a shed and a fence, and I think we're just gonna declare war on the neighbors at that point.
All right. Again, is there anyone in the audience like to speak on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you. Is your client here, or? Okay. It's what?
No, when they get here, just let us know. When they get here, just let us know.
Okay. All good? Okay. The next case on the agenda, case number 19022, Mary Perchacki, 23 Pond Road, Smithtown. The location of the property is the north side of 3 Pond Road, 273 feet east of Pond Path. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 24 feet to 5 feet, to reduce the total side yards from 60 feet to 29 feet, to increase the height from 15 feet to 22 feet, to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where slopes are greater than 15%, to permit construction within 10 feet of any slope greater than 25%, for proposed 528-square-foot detached garage with open breezeway.
Good evening.
Good evening. Frank Pachacki, 23 Pond Road, Smithtown. Yes, we'd like to ask for the variance to install a two-car detached garage with a breezeway attached to the current house. The height variance comes in because the existing house structure is also 22 feet, so that they would match and look symmetrical from the street. We're a collector-car family, so we have a lot of collector cars. My sons are older now. They're 20 and 17. They're getting into the hobby themselves, and I'm looking to put an additional structure so I could have a space to each of them to get a vehicle and start to enjoy the hobby as well.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
What's the height of the garage?
I believe the architect has it as 22. I'm not sure if the existing is indeed that tall, but I think that's what they filed for. But it's going to match the roof line of the existing structure that's there now.
So one of the problems this board typically has is when you push something closer to the property line like that, if it's taller, it's significantly more impacting, and you're asking for a lot of relief there. What, how much further away can we get it and still have it? you
As
know?
far as the height-wise goes?
Well, it's a
or-
combination of things. The distance from the property line and that height kind of work together to not in your favor because it really is going to affect your next door neighbor.
Gotcha. On that property line currently, there is probably 22-foot Leland cypresses that separate my property from my neighbors, going down the entire sideline. So they don't see anything now but
Are they your trees or their trees?
they're my trees, correct. So that's fully treed in currently. So you don't see anything from my driveway to the neighbor's house is fully blind with greenery. But again, I'm also not sure that the existing house structure is 22 feet tall. I do not believe it is. I believe it's like 17 feet. So I don't know why 22 came into play, but we're matching the existing structure of the current setup.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, see, I see that we're matching the sideline of what's there currently, which I believe is about 17 feet. I don't know why he went with 22 there.
Okay, thank you.
Planning?
Just a couple of comments, Mr. Chairman. In looking at the elevations, it appears that the existing attached garage is at an elevation of about 17 or 18 feet. Possibly, we could revise the proposal to bring down the height of the proposed detached garage to match the height of that attached garage. That might help with the setback issue and also would help with any type of visual impact that may or may not occur because of the dense planting that's along the side of the property. The other thing is, we were actually just discussing this afternoon, and we can't confirm this 100%, but based on some information that we have in our office for topographical information of that area, it appears that the proposed garage may actually be just outside of the environmentally sensitive land area. But again, because we don't have any topographical information from the surveyor who prepared the survey, we can't be sure. But just for the board to be aware.
I don't know if it helps, but.
Actually, that does help.
Okay, no, I'm saying when we did our pool some years back, we weren't subject to anything with environmental land. So when it came up this time, we were kind of confused by it because we have done work at the property and we were not subject to anything with environmental before. So we thought it was a little odd.
There's some rough topographical on.
Yeah.
Basically, it shows,
It's the flip of
111 going up to
It's like
one-
the flip of a coin.
111 to 112.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
All right,
Just to keep that in the
Sure.
back of your mind.
okay. Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, the property is located within the town's local waterfront revitalization program and will need an LWRP consistency determination from the planning department. DEW recommends the applicant contact the planning department for more information, if you haven't done so already. The property is also located within the New York State DEC Recreational River Corridor. DEW recommends the applicant contact DEC to determine if they will need any permits for this action. The survey submitted does indicate the following encroachments. A portion of the existing stone wall along the driveway encroaches into the town right-of-way to the south. The existing side chain link fence encroaches up to 6.6 feet onto the neighboring residential parcel to the west, and the existing rear chain link fence encroaches up to 2.3 feet onto the neighboring residential parcel to the north. DEW recommends the removal or legalization of these encroachments. Lastly, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight. Thank you.
Okay. You understand about the encroachments?
I do, but what's weird is that fence was installed by us on the last permit via the last survey that was done and was put on our property line per those survey stakes. So when I did see this, I was looking at it and kind of wondering, how did we wind up here? Because the last survey that we did, when we did the pool, we had a fence in the yard, and that fence was compliant with the survey. So I don't know how all of a sudden now we're finding out that these items are not within the boundaries, because they were when we did it in 2010. We did that work in 2010. And then we also did a front extension on the house in 2017, and we had done surveys again, and we were all within bounds at that time. So
Do you have those old surveys?
I believe we still have some of those old surveys.
Perhaps give them to this surveyor that you had do this one and find out what the discrepancy is, because this is what you submitted to the town.
Yeah, I know. And it says, oh, I found the survey stakes. And I'm like, well, if we had the survey stakes last time, how are we out of bounds? So I will have to look for an older survey just to see if I can clarify that. Otherwise, if we have to move the fence over, we'll move the fence over. But
Hopefully it's an error.
hopefully it's an error, because it was right in 2010. So I would like to think that it was done accurately, at that time frame.
All right.
All right?
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
You want to go back, Blaze? Yep. It's the second one, Logan. What? No, he just has to go up there and introduce himself. Just 1 second. This is the second case, Steve, the one we skipped over.
We're going to go back and do the previous case, case number 19019, John Logan, 15 Sarah Drive, Hauppauge. The location of the property is the east side of Sarah Drive, 217 feet north of Libby Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 41 feet for a proposed 336 square foot one-story addition and 261 square foot rear deck.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You are, sir?
John C. Logan. I reside at 15 Sarah Drive, as the gentleman said, Hauppauge.
Okay. Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, he can do that.
Okay,
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you. You can sit down if you like.
Okay, thank you.
Sir? Again, could you introduce yourself and just spell your last name so we get it correct on the record?
It's Michael Arato, A-R-A-T-O, 245 Route 109, Suite D, representing Captain Permit. We are here asking relief of the required 50-foot rear yard setback to 41 feet for both the deck and the addition. Both the deck and the addition do meet side yard setback. We are proposing to build a first-story addition, approximately 336 square feet. It's going to be a family room consisting of only a wood-burning fireplace in there, which is actually already in the house. It's being relocated to this room. There will be no bedrooms added to this home. In addition, there's going to be a deck that's going to be built off of this addition. The deck and the addition are not uncharacteristic to the neighborhood, and as of now, we haven't heard any opposition to this case.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
I have
Thank-
plans. I don't know, did you guys got the plans on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Blaze?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19023, Robert and Jody Avati, 317 Rose Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property, the south side of Rose Lane, 1,340 feet west of Brookside Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 50 feet to 41 feet for a proposed 259-square-foot front covered porch and previously approved 192-square-foot roof over porch converted to habitable floor area. Increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to 36% for existing and proposed asphalt driveways.
Good evening.
My name is Robert Avati, 317 Rose Lane, Smithtown, and Carmine's going to speak on my behalf.
Fine, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects, office at 14 Carl Avenue in Smithtown. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Avati in their requests for variances to reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 41 feet and increase the area of paving in the front yard from 25% to 36%. The Avatis are expanding their existing house so that they have room for both of their daughters. One of their daughters is autistic, so they want to have the family all in the house together to help give her the support that she needs. The setback request is for a proposed covered front porch, which will align with the existing front of the house. As Mr. Donadio said, the front of the house was a porch at one time, which is being converted to living space, and that was already previously approved. So we're not expanding any further than the existing front of the house is right now. The increase in the paving is mainly for a new walkway from the street to the front door. There are two existing driveways, one on the east side of the front of the property and one on the west side. The one on the east side is for cars to park, and the one on the west side goes back to a garage that is at the rear of the property, which is approved already. In regards to the 5 area variance considerations, the variance, we feel, would not produce an impact on the adjacent properties in the neighborhood. Again, the covered front porch that we're proposing lines up with the existing front of the house, so we're not encroaching any further than what is existing. The benefit cannot be sought by any alternative because of the existing condition is already non-conforming, so if we do anything there, it would require a variance. The request is not substantial, we feel, because we're maintaining the existing, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm repeating myself. The variances would not cause any environmental impact. The variances that are requested do not create any additional sanitary flow. There'll be a minimum increase in energy usage because of those. Any stormwater runoff for this proposed work will be contained on site. And finally, the difficulty was not created by my client. Again, the house is existing non-conforming, so anything he wants to do to attach to the front of the house would create a variance. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, DEW wishes to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments received by the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Yep.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are we up to here? The next case on the agenda, case number 19024, Edwin Medea, 37 Ridgely Road, Smithtown. The location of the property is the west side of Ridgely Road, 284 feet south of Gilbert Avenue. The property is owned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where depth to groundwater is equal to or less than 10 feet for an existing 225 square foot first floor addition, increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the side yard from 25% to 35% for an existing asphalt driveway.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Edwin Mendia. I'm the owner of 37 Ridgely Road. And I want to talk to Kevin Architect. He explained for me that.
Okay, fine. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kevin McCrae from McCrae Architects, 35 Broadway, first floor, Hicksville, New York. So this property is a single-family Cape-style residence. We have 2 applications currently filed for building permit applications at the building department. One is for the 1-story rear addition to expand the kitchen. And basically, it's an L-shaped rear of the house, and that we were squaring off a part of it to extend the kitchen. The entire footprint of the rear addition is all open to the kitchen. So it is just a vaulted ceiling, 1-story space. The reason we're before the board for the kitchen addition is because the property is within the environmentally sensitive area that requires 10-foot clearance to groundwater. We had soil borings done, and we're at 9.6 feet to groundwater. So we're asking for a relaxation of 0.4 feet to the groundwater. The other work on the property is a separate application to expand the driveway along the side of the existing garage. And a portion of that driveway expansion extends within the 4-foot setback area of the property line. Not all of it, but just a portion of it. And we're just asking for a relaxation of that portion of the driveway expansion, which is basically asphalt and Belgian block. And he just wanted to pull his car along the side of his garage and not have 2 tires in the grass. And that's the extent of the what we're before the board for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Thank you.
Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, due to the presence of high groundwater on the property, like the applicant has said, the applicant has been notified that the submission of new test hole data within the past 6 months is required in order to complete our review. Lastly, we do have one encroachment comment. The 2 existing concrete pillars at the end of the driveway do encroach into the right-of-way to the east. DEW recommends the removal or legalization of these encroachments.
Those are the front piers?
They're in the right-of-way.
Okay.
And then the submission of new test hole data within 6 months.
Right. The test hole information that we submitted was done in February 6th of '23. So it is beyond the
It is
6
beyond,
months.
so
So
we
so
will
we'll
require-
have McDonald Geoscience go back out and run some more test holes and
Thank you.
submit it. Hopefully it'll be 10 feet away, and not 9.6 feet away.
All right. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Very much.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19025, James Vitale, 55 Fulton Boulevard, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of Fulton Boulevard, 400 feet east of Lafayette Avenue. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 75 feet to 12 feet, which is existing, for a proposed 765 square foot, one-story addition, and proposed 435 square foot, second-story addition, adding to a lawful non-conforming structure.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is James Vitale, reside at 55 Fulton Boulevard, Comac, New York, and Carmine will be speaking on behalf.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. My name is Carmine Grasso of Cataldo Grasso Architects, office at 14 Carl Avenue in Smithtown. I'm here to represent Mr. Vitale in his request to add to a lawful non-conforming structure and reduce the rear yard setback from 75 feet to 12 feet, again, which is existing. I know that sounds like a major request. The existing house, as you can see, is unusual in its placement on the property. The existing house right now is 12 feet from the rear yard. Mr. Vitale is expanding his house now to make more room for his fiancee and her son. Right now, the house is a small two-bedroom house that's getting crowded with the three of them in there. The expansion will remain 2 bedrooms. We're not increasing the number of bedrooms, but we will be increasing the size of the bedrooms, making them larger, adding more living space, and giving them more closet space, which is much needed. Since the existing house is non-conforming, any improvements that they would make to this house would require BZA approval. Again, we're not requesting to reduce the existing rear yard setback. We're just going to go up above the part that is within the 12 feet of the property line. The other part of the addition that does run along the back of the house actually gets further away from the property as you go, because the property line is angled to the rear of the house. The proposed side yards are going to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance, so there would be no issues with that. In regards to the area variance considerations, we do not feel that the variance would create an negative impact on the neighborhood. The additions aren't encroaching any further than what is there existing. The benefit can't be achieved any other way because, again, the house is existing non-conforming, and anything they would do to this would require a variance. We don't feel that their request is substantial, even though you're going from 75 to 12. Again, being repetitive, the house is existing at 12 feet, and we're not going any closer than that. The variance would not create an adverse impact on the environment. We're not increasing the number of bedrooms, therefore there is no additional sanitary flow created on the property, and there'll just be minimal electrical load being generated by the house. And finally, the difficulty was not created by the owner because the house is existing and non-conforming, and anything he does would require a variance. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to, excuse me, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19026, Lisa Chupka, 11 Bradford Street, Wisconsin. The location of the property is the east side of Bradford Street, 180 feet south of Lydia Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 7 feet for a proposed 146 square foot second-story addition, adding to a lawful non-conforming structure.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Chupka. I reside at 11 Bradford. I have a vocal disorder, so just, if you can't understand me, ask me to repeat myself.
Take your time.
Thanks. I reside at 11 Bradford Street in Wisconsin, New York. I'm looking to dormer the front of our house so that we can move a bedroom from downstairs to upstairs and create more living space downstairs. I do have a letter of support from the neighbor that this directly affects. That it directly affects. So she's in support of this project. The house has not been updated in many years. The house itself doesn't conform to the community, so these adjustments will actually make the house conform to the community, basically.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
You did well.
Thank you.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning.
No, thank you.
Sabrina.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close the application, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Excuse me. Do you have your affidavits?
The next case on the agenda, case number 19027, Darius Wizawati, 256 Southern Boulevard, Wisconsin. The location of the property, the west side of Southern Boulevard, 1,245 feet north of Town Line Road. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a certificate of existing use for two existing single-family dwellings, a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 45 feet to 36 feet for a proposed 190 square foot, one-story front addition, adding to a lawful non-conforming structure.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. My name is Darius Wizawati. I am the owner of the 256 Southern Boulevard, and I'm here to request a certificate of existing use for two existing one-family dwellings, also reduce minimum front yard from 45 feet to 36 feet, and lawful non-conforming structure. I bought those houses in the end of the May, beginning of the June, and actually I wasn't know exactly what I'm going through, but now I would like to make them certified since they single houses, and I did a renovation. I put the new windows, put a new siding and outside. Actually, the foundation was so bad. I am the mason contractor, so into my foundations, even raccoons won't have a place to stay. So water was going to the house. It was kind of a little mess, but I tried to make those houses look nice as a neighborhood, and I'm asking for help me out.
Okay. Both those houses have the same number, correct?
That's correct. They have the same number. Even I went to the to the post office because they put 260 on my other house. And the other house, it's not 260. The 260 is the property next door. So even when I have the second bill for the second house from the LIPA, they call that as a 260. I call the LIPA. They send me to the building department. I went to the building department, and they tried to help me out, make that as a 256A. And what with that? But 260 is the next property. So.
Okay. I don't know if you can answer this next question, but on the south side of your property,
Yes.
there's a garage. I know it's not your property.
Yes. Is
Who owns that?
I think the people who own that whole lot, they divide by those two houses. I think they own that garage.
Okay. 'Cause
It's an
really-
older lady. She lives in Astoria. She's like 90 years old, and she owned that garage.
Just curious, because there's no access to the garage. The
No,
garage
it's
is-
only
the
it's only
garage is
trucks
sitting
from
there.
the tires.
Yeah.
When she coming in and she cut the grass, she's 90 years old and she cut the grass by herself.
Really?
Yeah. I even
Alright.
helped her a couple of times.
Thank you.
Strong lady.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Yeah, I guess we need something that says this existed prior to zoning. Do we have?
I'm glad you asked. Glad you asked. So just for the board's information, according to the assessor's records, which were updated in 1990, the 1.5-story house, which would be house number 1, was constructed in 1922. The 1-story house, the house to the south, was constructed in 1927. I don't know if it still exists on the property, but behind the two houses, there was previously a detached garage that was constructed in 1940.
If I could say something, I did see some, when I was cleaning up the yards, I see some concrete behind that little house. So maybe it was before, but nothing, not now it's now. That's why I did those pictures in the back. So I dig some concrete. You're right, something was there before, because I was with the drainage of the water. Water was always part of the, was 3 feet foundation was there, and I was wondering, what is that?
That was the garage.
That was the garage. You're right.
And just for the record, the zoning that would have made this single family came into play in the 50s?
Around 1947,
So both houses would have predated
predated.
zoning.
Yep.
You have anything else for us?
That's it.
Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant, as well as any comments from the public, before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight, but we do have one question for the applicant. Do you have any kind of permit or approval from the health department allowing those two houses as they exist?
About that.
Okay, well, in order for us to complete our environmental review, we will need to see approval from the Department of Health.
Oh,
So-
whatever you want me to do, I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to work with you guys.
Yes.
You know, it's not a problem. I'm just new with this, so if you lead me the right way, I get you whatever you want.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, please.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Mike Robinson. This is Michelle Robinson. We live just beyond that garage you were referring to. We live at 264 Southern Boulevard. We've been there, I think, since 2007. And the woman who owns that garage, with that garage you're referring to, that family had owned that property since, I think, the 30s or 40s. They came out to go to Lake Ronkonkoma. It was their vacation home. So the two houses so we actually had approached Dariush once he bought the property and started, not renovating, upgrading, because these homes have been derelict they've been there all this time. She just comes out once a month or once 2 months. She stays above that garage, but these homes have just been not maintained. So we're just in full support of what's been upgraded. I think.
amazing.
Yeah, and I think that variance, I think it was always just a the front was really like a screened-in porch that was, I think it still sits at the same property line. I think it's just enclosed now, but.
What he's done is amazing to the neighborhood, to the street. Her little garage, she drives on the grass, she comes, she doesn't even turn the electricity on, she sleeps up there. She mows the lawn, she leaves, go back to the city. If we could just renovate her house, it would be amazing. But he's done,
Yeah.
it doesn't even
It's
look
a major
like-
upgrade.
Tho-
Yeah.
What those houses looked like before, almost you didn't even see them. That's how bad they were. What he's done is, and it's just,
Just for our full support.
yeah,
Okay,
100%.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Anyone else in the audience like to speak on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you come here for one moment?
What? I think we have something else.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19032, Sanjay Jain, 4 Red Leaf Lane, Comac. The location of the property is the south side of Red Leaf Lane, 164 feet east of Vanderbilt Motor Parkway. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 32 feet for an existing 115 square foot front portico.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sanjay, and I'm the homeowner for 4 Red Leaf Lane in Comac. I'm requesting basically like to have like a portico in front of the house, just to give like a safe entry to the house, so that like 2 or 3 people can stand there during the rain or the snow times. So it's only for that purpose. The prior kind of like the portico didn't have enough space even for 2 people, and it was not very safe. So that's the only request.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Thank
Nothing? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Do you have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19033, Ryan and Emily Craig, 5 King Arthur Court, St. James. The location of the property is the east side of King Arthur Court, 503 feet west of Hillside Avenue. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 12 feet for a proposed 611 square foot, one-story addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Emily Craig. I reside at 5 King Arthur's Court in St. James. And this is Joe Walker. He's going to be speaking on our behalf.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joseph Walker, Double Check Builders, 270 Ronkonkoma Avenue in Ronkonkoma for the applicant. I have 2 letters in support of this application that I'd like to make part of the record, if that's okay with you.
Certainly. Thank you.
Those letters are from the neighbors most affected by this request, and each one is in support of the request. The proposed addition would enjoy a 75% compliance with the existing R21 zoning. The proposed addition would be totally consistent with the existing nature and character of the neighborhood and would not result in any negative impact with respect to the value or the quality of life of the neighborhood. This request is not self-inflicted because it is requested. We're requesting permission, not a relief of an existing situation. The relief sought is in this fashion on this side of the house because if we were to place it anyplace else, it would become economically unfeasible with respect to cost to the homeowner. The homeowner is intending to expand the family, so we need the space for additional children, which is consistent with living space that the governor has talked about. And in view of the fact that this board has a history of balancing the needs of the neighborhood and the town with respect to the homeowner, we would hope that the board might look favorably upon this application.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Sabrina?
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Marion Callahan, 7.
One second, please. We have to read it into the record.
Okay. The next case on the agenda is case number 19011, Marion Callahan, 777 Meadow Road, Smithtown. The location of the property is the north side of Meadow Road, 805 feet east of Dilmont Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum east side yard setback from 16 feet to 3 feet for an existing 77 square foot shed. Reduce the minimum west side yard from 16 feet to 15. Reduce the total side yards from 34 feet to 18 feet for a proposed 265 square foot first floor addition and 68 square foot deck.
Good evening.
Okay, so I'm Marion Callahan, 777 Meadow Road, Smithtown, New York, and this is my architect, Michael Dunn, and he will represent.
Fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm Michael Dunn, the architect at 256 Orinoco Drive in Brightwaters, New York, 11718. So the Callahans are proposing a bedroom expansion to make the master bedroom bigger and more closet space. So we are asking for that side yard setback of 15 feet instead of 16. And we're also asking for that 3-foot setback for the existing small shed, which is 77 square feet on the other side. So I have the total side yards for the house at 39 feet. So
You
that's,
can take that out if it's more comfortable.
oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. And I do have 2 letters of support from the neighbors on either side of the property.
Right, we have copies.
You have them?
Yeah.
Okay. That's our case. That's it.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Sabrina?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is located within the New York State DEC Recreational River Corridor. DEW recommends the applicant contact DEC to determine if they will need any permits for this action. The current application to create up to 5 bedrooms, 3 labeled as such on the first floor, plus 2 bedroom-sized rooms with a closet and a full bath in the basement, requires one of the following options from the applicant. Either we need to see approval from the Department of Health, or the applicant could allow the building department to inspect to confirm that there are no bedrooms in the basement in order for us to complete our environmental review.
Okay. We do have DEC approval. We
Okay,
can
great.
get that to you. And we'll have to do an inspection for the basement.
That would be sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only 3-bedroom house.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, excuse me one second. It's not there. The next case on the agenda is case number 19017. Roman Mushnikov and Stella Samander, 39 Brookfield Road, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the west side of Brookfield Road, 201 feet north of Senny Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting a variance to disturb environmentally sensitive lands, slopes greater than 15%, for proposed regrading.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Armentano. I'm an attorney with Farrell Fritz, representing the applicant. I do have some letters of, I have 13 letters of support and a quick little handout to help you with the presentation. And I believe everyone in the audience also is in favor of the application, which is a first for me, so I just want to put that on the record.
Thank you. Steve is the last case.
Thank you.
So we're tonight seeking a variance to legalize some regrading of a steep slope and also to finish the regrading of the slope. My client purchased the property in 2020. When he purchased the property, it was a very steep slope to the south side. You basically would walk out of the side door, and it was very precarious. And he has young children, so he wasn't aware of the requirement for a fill permit for steep slope, so he began the process of filling in the, leveling out the very steep slope, as you can see, which, according to the plans, has solidified and is stabilized along the property boundary. We provided you with a booklet which details the existing conditions. There's a site location map. I'm sure you're familiar with the property. You've been to the site. Exhibit 3 is an existing survey which shows the conditions after the notice of violation was issued in June of 2022. So this survey was surveyed in July of that year, and that is the existing conditions of the subject property. What is being proposed was part of our application and is also Exhibit 4. It shows basically the stabilization, and I do apologize, our engineer was supposed to be here tonight, but he had a car fire, so he couldn't make it. So I think this application is rather straightforward, but he was going to be here from Catapano Engineering, but he was unable to make it tonight, so we apologize for that. But if you look closely at the Exhibit 4, and it's also our application, what is being proposed is to install silt fencing along the slopes on the south side of the property, and there is a small area which will show in the photographs. It's kind of it's an ellipse, and it's a small area that has to be, needs to still be regraded because there's a precarious drop off there and the homes in the area. You know, we need to stabilize that area to make it a more flat lawn area for his children. And we have submitted the Catapano engineering plan, which details the issues, you know, how it's going to be. It is stable at this point, but this is to further stabilize the property and the slope. We have some photographs as Exhibit 5, the entryway onto the property. The next photograph is a picture of the existing conditions, showing you it's been revegetated, it's turfed now. The area, 90% of the area has been stabilized. The next photograph shows you a picture from the west, looking at that area that still needs to be, or we are requesting that it be stabilized and regraded so that there is an easy contour to the property. So there's a usable backyard. This was it's in a hilly section of the town. And so the idea, my client would like to just finish off that regrading of the property. And you get a better perspective in the next photograph. And the following photographs are just pictures of the existing conditions as they are today. It's really a somewhat straightforward application. The letters of support are also in the back of the application. This is more akin to a special permit from this board to stabilize steep slopes. You know, if we would go to the area variance criteria, I think we do meet those, although I'm not sure it's exactly an area variance criteria, but I believe what is being asked for here is de minimis and is really to utilize the property in a more functional way for my client's family, who is here to speak. If you have any questions, I know there are some members of the public who would like to speak as well. I can answer any questions you may have.
Yes. They've regraded part of it.
Correct. The majority of the property was
It's been
regraded.
regraded.
Correct.
Now they want to regrade more.
Just a very small portion. If you look at,
Yeah, on the south side.
yes, if you look at Exhibit 4, it's that circular, and I can point it out on the plan if you'd like, but it's a very small area that is proposed to be filled. And I can point to that either
That's
on the
right.
board.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's the additional.
Okay. Okay. Now, you said something about a fence on the south side?
No, there's no fence. There's more of like a silt fencing that's been installed, and what's being proposed is what is proposed is a silt fence section which shows how it will be stabilized, which is going to be done to the existing conditions to solidify and make sure that it doesn't have any erosion. There hasn't been much. I mean, I've been to the property, but this will ensure that there will not be any erosion of the property. So we're going to do that on top to the existing conditions and also as part of the additional request to fill in that small portion of the property.
Because the neighbor to the south, that property,
Is very graded. Yes, I've been there, yes.
it's, how can I say it? It's almost like in a hole. You could see where he cut down all the trees and he's trying to bring everything back up. Hopefully, they don't get too close to that property line, because there is a drop-off.
It is significant.
Severe drop-off.
Yes, it is. I'd say it's about it's a significant drop-off.
Yeah.
And I had tried to pull the file out. A building permit was issued for that. I don't know, there was no steep slope, so it's fine. And we know where our property lines are. I believe the neighbors are friendly, and I believe we'll honor property lines, of course. And our slope is still stable, and if you've been to the site, he is actively regrading, and he's actually terracing his pool in his backyard. So I don't see the interface with us being a problem, but that's why we're also gonna have the silt fencing to make sure that we remain stable.
Right, okay, all right. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
I just have a couple of questions for Mr. Armentano, only because I'm a little confused, because the call of the meeting said proposed regrading, but apparently the majority of the regrading has already happened, correct?
That is correct. Our
Okay.
application did discuss legalization of existing conditions and
Okay.
a small portion of proposed, yes.
Okay, so the area with the circle around it is actually what you're proposing to finish regrading?
That is correct.
Okay. And you said that that was done in 2021?
The grading that has already occurred took place in 2022.
2022?
Yes.
And it's already, at this point, it's regrown vegetation, it's actually covered with...
There's turf and ivy and
okay.
everything has come back, yes.
Was the regrading done in conjunction with the neighbor to the south? Because as the chairman had stated, when we did go out to do the site inspection, the neighbor to the south, and I'm sorry, I don't know their name, there is extensive amount of tree removal, regrading, backfilling with what appears to be quite a few hundred yards of fill. This was not done in conjunction with their work?
No, there was a separate, we were separate and did not coordinate. There was nothing connecting
Okay.
the two.
Moving forward, would you be able to provide the board and also, actually the town, because it would be part of the LWRP review process, and I'm assuming it would also be part of the environmental department's review, for a tree preservation and clearing plan that would be related to possibly any, if you have the information, any trees that have already been removed from the prior regrading, and then moving forward, any trees that may be subject to removal or replacement from the finishing up of the regrading.
Yes, we can do that. My client can speak to questions of that fact specific, but from my
Okay.
understanding, there were no trees removed, and if there was, it was a dead one, but we have not taken down any trees on the property, to
Okay.
the best of my knowledge.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as Blaze has pointed out, the property is located within the town's local waterfront revitalization program and will need an LWRP consistency determination from the planning department. DEW recommends the applicant contact the planning department if they haven't already done so for more information. Lastly, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight on this application. Thank you.
We do have some members of the public who would like to speak in favor, I believe, so if you have a few
Yeah.
minutes.
We get to talk.
Start?
And now I'm gonna open it up to them.
Very good.
And then you can even come back. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Hi, my name is, hello, there he is. Hi, it's Jason Reiser, 41 Brookfield Road, R-E-I-S-E-R. My wife Gail and I, G-A-I-L, she couldn't be here, but we are in support of this. Our house is directly to the west of this property. We're kind of behind our driveway is the 43 Brookfield flag lot, so you kind of pull in and go around Roman and Stella's property. As you mentioned, obviously, these two neighbors have both done some regrading. I don't know that it's a concern of ours, but you know, ours is the property that if there's issues here, anything would flow onto. The back of our property is the kind of below where all that regrading is taking place. I don't think it's a concern. We're certainly in support. They're friends, they're neighbors, they're wonderful people, and I think what they're doing is probably the best way to make safe and most economical use of the property, so we are in support. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next? Anyone else? Last call.
My name is Roman Mushiakov. I'm the owner of 39 Brookfield. I just want to say thank you for being here tonight, and we're looking forward to do the right thing. I do apologize in advance. This is my first home I've ever owned, and if I knew I needed a regrading permit, I would apply for that first. So I know I've done some work. I just want you to be aware of that, and from this point on, obviously, we took action and hiring the right people to do the right thing. So I do thank you again. This will be very important to our small children, and it would really for their future and for their current situation as well, as they play around in the yard. Two of my sons play soccer, so we try to make it safe for them, safe as possible. So thank you again.
All right, thank you.
Charles Muller, 7 Seashell Lane, Fort Salonga. My wife Tia and I are neighbors of Stella and Roman and family, and we totally trust their judgment. We know they're doing what's good for the kids and the neighborhood. And from what we can see from the road, it's a nice improvement to the property, and it appears to us that it won't have any negative impact on the environment. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Steve Samander. Besides being a neighbor, I'm 2 houses down. I'm also Stella's brother. I actually think, from a point of view, I'm a physician, that this is a much safer proposal to what Roman and Stella are trying to do, having small kids, because you can easily just kind of try to catch a ball and roll into that sort of a ditch that was formed there naturally previously. So this improvement helps to, even if somebody does fall, it will prevent a major injury. So that's, from that perspective, I'm just adding my 2 cents here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All of these be entered into the record.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, fine. Can I have a motion to?
Make a motion to close the case.
Motions are made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. And that concludes our hearing for tonight.